Self-love is quiet. It's not this loud proclamation to others and you're screaming like, hey, I love myself, or hey, I'm learning to love myself. This is something that you do internally, and that in time others will see the changes in you and see, hey, like there's something different about her or him. Self-love is about checking with yourself and checking in on yourself and asking, what do I need, or what am I feeling at this point in time right now? And then honoring the answer and giving yourself whatever it is that you need. Sometimes loving yourself means resting when you're tired. Sometimes loving yourself means walking away from situations that are not going to keep you in a good headspace or in a good emotional state. Sometimes self-love means having difficult conversations and setting boundaries. Let me say this clearly. Self-love is not selfish. It's self-respect. It's an attribute that once you have learned and built up that self-love for yourself, others will see and they'll ask you what's different, and you'll be able to help them. When you love yourself, you stop shrinking to be accepted and you start trusting yourself. And I know all of that sounds hard and scary sometimes because, again, like I said earlier, I felt like I grew up with conditional love, so seeking validation was huge for me. I wanted to hear you say I did a good job. I wanted to hear you say I was beautiful. I wanted to hear you say that I did something well. And so I was seeking that validation when all that really matters is self-validation. I remember anytime I would cry, my oldest cousin would tell me, don't cry, you're strong. Are you crying? And I would just push my tears back and be like, no, I'm not crying. That's a perfect example. He didn't do it on purpose, right? It's something that we're taught. We're taught to be strong. We're taught not to cry. We're taught, hey, if you fall, get back up. But again, it's allowing yourself to feel and to go through the emotions, but we're not taught how to go through emotions or to love ourselves. And again, a lot of us learned early on that love was conditional. We were praised when we were doing good, when you were making good grades, when you were keeping up with your chores, when you were doing whatever it is that made your parents happy. We were praised, we were loved. But somewhere along the way, we internalized that if we were good, we deserved love. Hello, welcome back to Healing Momma Podcast. I am Val, aka Healing Momma, and today is episode 4, The Importance of Self-Love. Being that tomorrow is Valentine's Day, I really wanted to talk about self-love and the importance of taking care of you and learning to love yourself, because I feel like around this time it's so easy for us to focus on our loved ones, our partners, whoever it is that's special in our lives, and we tend to forget ourselves. And I want to just bring that to your awareness, and I want to tell you that I'm proud of you for making time for yourself to listen to this episode and to learn and grow with me and to just be on this journey with me. So as always, I'll start it off with a quote. Today's quote is, "To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness," by Robert Morley. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. And I love that quote. It's simple, but it is really impactful. When we learn to love ourselves, truly who we are, our soul, our mind, our spirit, that is the essence of love and self-love. And I feel like a lot of the times it's overshadowed by our physical appearance. And if we love the physical side of us, more often than not, even when you think about the people who go and get work done on their bodies, hey, more power to you. I'm not judging you. If that's what makes you happy and that's what you feel like you need, by all means, do you. But sometimes you hear that they get more work done and more work done, and it just continues to be this thing because they are changing little bits and pieces of themselves thinking that that's what's going to make them happy. But in all reality, happiness comes from within. And yeah, you can change things, but the more that you start to change things, the more and more that you're going to feel like, okay, you're kind of zoning in on everything else that's wrong with you and what else you can change to make you perfect. Self-love is about choosing yourself even when it feels uncomfortable. And it will feel uncomfortable, especially if you've gone so long neglecting yourself and just pouring into others and you're running on E. It's going to feel uncomfortable and awkward and sometimes almost wrong, because you're learning to pour into your cup and to take care of yourself and do things for you. And sometimes that means going and buying yourself something. Sometimes that means going to a spa, getting your nails done, Or sometimes that means just, hey, I need 15, 20 minutes to myself. I'm going to sit in a room, I'm going to meditate, or I'm just going to just breathe and just unwind and relax for those 15 minutes. So if you've ever struggled with self-doubt, people pleasing, burnout, or feeling like you're never enough, then this episode is for you. So let's start off with, what does loving yourself really mean? Because we do hear that often. Love yourself, love yourself. And sometimes it can feel vague or unrealistic. And so one thing I want to make clear is loving yourself doesn't mean having this high level of confidence all the time and being so about yourself in the sense of appearance. It's also not about having it all figured out. Loving yourself means choosing yourself even on those bad days, on the days where you wake up and you're not feeling the best. It's the most important relationship. It's the relationship you have with yourself when no one is watching. And so I jotted down a couple of things as to what I feel love looks like. Giving yourself grace instead of punishment when you mess up. Speaking to yourself with patience instead of harshness. Letting yourself feel emotions without shaming yourself for them. That last one has been something that I feel the last year has really been something that I've tried to learn and grow into, because it's not something that I have ever done in my life. I feel like a lot of the times on this journey, because we're learning, we're growing, we're healing, we're working towards better versions of ourselves, at times it can feel like you're not allowed to have bad days, or you're not allowed to cry or feel angry, and that is not the case. What I'm learning is that in order to love myself, I need to let myself feel the emotions and take the time that I need in order to process them. So if I'm feeling sad, I allow myself to feel sad for a certain amount of time. I'm not going to dwell in it, but I allow myself to feel sad in that moment. If I'm angry, I try my best not to stay in that anger, because I do feel like that will just carry on throughout the day. But I acknowledge the situation and I try to dive deeper into why it made me angry. What was I triggered by? And so learning to feel those emotions and working through them, which before the emotions would just overtake me and that would be the rest of my day, or my situations would escalate. So allow yourself to feel those emotions so your mind, your body, your soul knows it's okay to have reactions, and she's going to take care of me even when I'm mad or upset or sad, and we're going to learn to work through it. Self-love is quiet. It's not this loud proclamation to others and you're screaming like, hey, I love myself, or hey, I'm learning to love myself. This is something that you do internally, and that in time others will see the changes in you and see, hey, like there's something different about her or him. Self-love is about checking with yourself and checking in on yourself and asking, what do I need, or what am I feeling at this point in time right now? And then honoring the answer and giving yourself whatever it is that you need. Sometimes loving yourself means resting when you're tired. Sometimes loving yourself means walking away from situations that are not going to keep you in a good headspace or in a good emotional state. Sometimes self-love means having difficult conversation and setting boundaries. And sometimes self-love is doing things that you've been holding off on because you're too afraid and you're not sure what the end result is going to be, but it's something that you really want to do. Because remember, growth feels uncomfortable. Self-love also means respecting your limits and remembering that you don't have to pour from an empty cup in order to please others or to prove your worth. And here's a big one. You don't have to overgive to be loved. And I feel like that's something for me personally that I struggled with for so many years. And I do feel like it is based on my upbringing, my childhood. I did feel growing up that I had conditional love. If I was a good girl, if I made good grades, if I stayed in line, then I received love. If I did anything else, then I wasn't worthy of love. And that's how I felt. And so growing up as a teenager, as an adult, I felt like I overperformed and I would give and give and give so I could be worthy of other people's love, or so I could feel worthy of their love. And now I'm learning you don't have to overgive to be loved, because when you love yourself, you stop abandoning little you to make people comfortable. And let me say this clearly. Self-love is not selfish. It's self-respect. It's an attribute that once you have learned and built up that self-love for yourself, others will see and they'll ask you what's different, and you'll be able to help them. When you love yourself, you stop shrinking to be accepted and you start trusting yourself. And I know all of that sounds hard and scary sometimes because, again, like I said earlier, I felt like I grew up with conditional love, so seeking validation was huge for me. I wanted to hear you say I did a good job. I wanted to hear you say I was beautiful. I wanted to hear you say that I did something well. And so I was seeking that validation when all that really matters is self-validation. And so this doesn't happen overnight. Have grace with yourself. We're learning, we're growing. I want you to remember that loving yourself is going to take time. It's something that we build over time through the small choices we make to take care of ourselves, the small things that we do for ourselves, the small reminders to ourselves, the small moments where we allow ourselves to feel and we accept ourselves for who we are. And if all you can do today is be a little kinder to yourself than you were yesterday, then that's where it starts. And so let's be honest with each other about why self-love can be so difficult and why it can feel uncomfortable and awkward. Because if you're feeling that way, I promise you're not alone. For many of us, loving ourselves isn't something that we were taught. We were taught to keep going, to be strong, not to cry, how to show up for others, and never really truly show up for ourselves. And this is true for me, at least. I grew up with nothing but boy cousins, and so I can remember always being with them. And of course, I'm a girl. I got hurt easily. I was scared of things that they weren't afraid of. And I remember anytime I would cry, my oldest cousin would tell me, "Don't cry. You're strong. Are you crying?" And I would just push my tears back and be like, no, I'm not crying. That's a perfect example. He didn't do it on purpose, right? It's something that we're taught. We're taught to be strong. We're taught not to cry. We're taught, hey, if you fall, get back up. But again, it's allowing yourself to feel and to go through the emotions, but we're not taught how to go through emotions or to love ourselves. And again, a lot of us learned early on that love was conditional. We were praised when we were doing good, when you were making good grades, when you were keeping up with your chores, when you were doing whatever it is that made your parents happy. We were praised, we were loved. But somewhere along the way, we internalized that if we were good, we deserved love. So our worth became tied to what we provided, how we reacted, how we responded, if we were strong, if we were weak, how much we do, how much we gave. And so all of that, we learned that love was conditional. So now as adults, anything other than that can seem uncomfortable. I know for me, saying no felt selfish. When people would ask me like, hey, can you do this? I would be tired from the end of the day. And I would feel wrong for saying no because I felt like they needed me. And what if I said no? Would they stop loving me? So again, even as adults, we still carry those beliefs into our adulthood from our upbringing. And I feel like, especially as a mother or as a parent, I should say, being selfish in the sense of taking time for yourself and not being that parent can feel wrong. It can make you feel guilty. But that's not the case because you need to pour into yourself in order to pour into others. You cannot fill a cup when you're on empty. Love can also feel hard because it asks you to sit with parts of yourself that you haven't really explored or maybe you're not truly comfortable with. The hurt, the grief, the trauma. But when you slow down to love yourself, to love those thoughts, those memories, you can learn to go deeper and channel the little version of you inside. And that's an opportunity to reparent yourself. And I feel like reparenting is a huge part of self-love. And I want to let you know that if you're in a relationship, if you're single, your relationship status does not determine your value. Another reason self-love could feel hard is because you've been the caretaker for others most of your life. You've had to be the strong one, the fixer, always nurturing others and neglecting yourself. So when you begin this journey of self-love, it's going to feel unfamiliar. And self-love doesn't mean that you're going to stop wanting love or a connection with other people. It means that you're no longer abandoning yourself while waiting for it or receiving it. And if it feels uncomfortable, have grace with yourself because you're unlearning everything that you were taught about love and how to receive love and the conditions of love, which it should be always unconditional. You're not broken. You're adapting. And now you're choosing a different way, and you're allowed to. When you don't love yourself, you overextend yourself, you abandon your needs, and you stay in situations that drain you. You teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. Self-abandonment looks like strength from the outside, but exhaustion on the inside. So I want you to ask yourself these questions. Where am I betraying myself to keep the peace? Where am I saying yes when my soul is screaming no? Be honest with yourself when you ask yourself those questions. Awareness is always going to be the first step to change. Remember, loving yourself is a practice, not a destination. There are a few ways that you can begin that journey. Change the way you speak to yourself. Notice your internal dialogue. Would you speak to your child, a friend, a family member the way that you're speaking to yourself? Set boundaries without feeling the need to explain yourself. This is choosing you. You don't need permission to protect your peace. Forgive yourself. You did the best you could with what you knew. Self-love is built through consistency and small choices. And remember that healing is rough, it's messy, but staying present with yourself, even when it hurts, is what matters most. That's self-love. Allowing yourself to have emotions without judging yourself. Giving yourself grace on the hardest of days, and not rushing your growth. And you don't have to be healed in order to be worthy of love. You're allowed to love yourself just the way you are, and not just who you're trying to become. Before we close, I want to kind of tie this back into Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is often thought of romantic gestures, this romantic celebration of love. But what if this year, for us, for you, it became a reminder to come back home to yourself, to love yourself? How could you be the love you've been waiting for all your life? Maybe that looks like taking yourself out on a date. I do it. I'll take myself out to eat, even if I'm by myself. My mom always gets a kick at that I can sit somewhere and be by myself. Writing yourself a love letter and telling yourself how proud you are that you're on this journey and where you hope to see yourself in the future. Setting a boundary and saying no when you don't have the energy to do something anymore, when something is stealing your peace. Or finally resting without feeling any guilt. So this week, I want you to remember Valentine's Day is for you. Let it be about self-connection, reconnection with yourself, and not about comparison. And I ask you if this episode has resonated with you, or if you know someone who's going through it right now, and they are on this journey of life and feel like they are at their lowest of lows, and they lack that love and compassion for themselves. Share this with them, because there's people out there who are struggling during this season. And before you go, please be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe. I am on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TikTok, Amazon Music, and iHeartMusic. Subscribing helps this podcast grow. Sharing the episode helps the podcast grow. And that's the goal of this, is just to help people that feel like they're alone and they just need to hear somebody say, you're going to be okay, and this is how we're going to do it. Remember, you are worthy of love every day, not just on Valentine's Day. I send you so much love, peace, joy, happiness, and until next time, happy Valentine's Day, guys. Have a great one. Bye.